I'm going to open in prayer, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker to you, and then we'll go ahead and have the first session of our seminar, and then a little break, and then we'll have the second half, okay? So let me open in prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the great privilege that you give to be able to partner with you in your great plan of redemption for the nations. And we pray, Lord, that this evening that you just open our eyes just a little more to who you are and what you're about and our role in your great plan. So we pray, Lord, that you'd bless Todd as he presents to us. Give us open hearts, give us open minds, Lord, for what he's going to share with us, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen. So, Todd, you want to come up here? You're going to come? Where's he going? I want to introduce you to Todd Aaron. This is his second trip to Hawthorne Gospel. And I know that you've written some books, and they're over in the back there and so on. And I know that you have a doctorate from Gordon Conwell and so on. But we're interested in more personal stuff. So what I thought I would ask you is where did you meet your wife?
Wow, that's pretty personal.
It's going to get more personal.
We met at a wedding. I told the officiant, stay up there. He's got one more coming.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Where did you have your first date?
Go to like a really nice restaurant in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We go in, the wait was so long, we went to McDonald's.
Okay, so where did you propose?
I went to a park, got out the game Connect 4, beat her, and no, we played some games at Connect 4, went to the park where we went on our first date, washed her feet, gave her some pearl earrings and told her she was the pearl of great price, and then asked her to be my wife. 23 years that happened.
Did you do any of the down on the knee thing? No, down on the knee thing, or?
I did.
You did. You were traditional. Okay, one last question for you, Todd. What did your wife say to you when you said, honey, we're going to be spending our life as missionaries, working on college campuses, sharing about God's plan of redemption? What did she say to you then?
She was bummed. She was pretty bummed. She had to get used to it because we have two here from Ethnos. They've worked in New Guinea for 26 years. And my wife had just come back from a short-term trip with them, wanting to go back long-term to do Bible translation. And instead, I'm like, hey, we're jumping in a van.
Right now, she's on board.
Yeah, she's pretty on board.
Well, we're glad that you're here, Todd, and we want to welcome you to the Hawthorne Gospel Church. So God bless.
Thank you. Man. And we did not discuss that at all, okay? You might not have noticed, but I had no idea he was going to do that. Thank you. I appreciate this. North Americans are virtually dead last when it comes to geography and learning geography. I mean, I remember geography in high school. I preferred the periodic table over the capitals and countries, but we're basically dead last. No other country is as bad as us. Matter of fact, National Geographic did a survey. 1 out of every 10 North Americans can't find the North on a map. That means if they get kidnapped by an alien, okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. Now, the thing is, God says to us in John 3:16, for God so loved the world. God so loved the world. And so if I'm a Christ follower and God loves the world, I realized quickly on in my Christianity that I should know what the world looks like. Like, I should know what the world looked like. One of the first missionaries that set sail, William Carey, someone asked him before he sailed to India, how to know God's will? God's will, you need two things. You need an open Bible and an open map. You need an open Bible and you need an open map. Now, as Christians in the West, I think we do a great job of opening our Bibles. But man, it is sad. The vast amount of Christ's followers don't open a map. I mean, let's just elite, right? Let me tell you why you're the elite. Because you're here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon playing cornhole and listening to a missions talk, okay? That's just not normal. I'm blown away by people who come to these optional afternoon sessions. I'm like, how did you wind up here? I've already asked Carol. Where's Carol, my only friend here? Carol, where are you? Carol, my only friend here. I was like, how did you wind up here? It's just so interesting how people got here. But let's say hypothetically under your chair, there's not, but let's just say there was a map of the world. And let's say I said, pull it out. Top right, tell me how many countries of the world. Bottom, tell me how many Muslim nations. Top left, tell me how many Hindus. Bottom left, tell me how many Buddhists. Where are the... Top right again, how many languages in the world? Bottom right, how many languages have no Bible? Bottom left, how many missionaries in the world? Top left, how many are missionaries to the unreached? Bottom left, tell me how much money is given to missions. Bottom right, tell me how much money goes to unreached. How would you do with those? Would you be like, man, I crushed it? Crushed it. Or would you too be like, man, I don't know? And that's a problem because it's almost like we say, Father, forgive me, I know not what I do, and please don't tell me, right? That's kind of our mentality. So what I want to do for the first session is I just want to open a map. I want to open a map, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to talk about how specifically you can play a part. Second half is way better than the first, so don't scoot out of here, okay? Revelation 5:9. What is the mission of God? What is the mission of God? It's actually, the mission of God is fairly simple. His praise, His glory praised through Jesus among the nations. That's what it is. God is fairly simple. His glory praised through Jesus among the nations. Mission of the church is a little different. Missions of the church is how we fulfill that. Mission of God is His glory praised through Jesus among the nations. Mission of the church, going to every people group, making disciples, and gathering those disciples into healthy churches so that the mission of God can be fulfilled. You with me? The mission of God is found in Revelation 5:9. John, who's writing, looks up and he sees this vision, this multicultural worship service, and he says a few things. The first, every. I see every. Like he says every. You're like, every. And then he says diversity. He says, man, I see them in their diversity. You are worthy to take the scroll and open its seals because you were slain, and with your blood you purchased men for God from every tribe and language and people and nation. The mission of God is fairly simple. His glory praised through Jesus among the nations. That's where we're going. And you know, like when you walk into a room, you probably did this today. You notice who's there. But what happens when you start noticing who's not there? If you walked into Revelation 5:9 right now, you would notice 7,000 people groups. Over 2 billion people are not there. And that's my problem as a Christ follower. But it's also my privilege. So you're gonna first learn that God's mission is about peoples. Okay? I mentioned every ethnos. They're here. Ethnos 360. And here's where they get their name. Actually, it's a Greek word. It says, and here's where they get their name. Actually, here's it's a Greek word. It says, nations. Now, when you see that word nations in the Bible, sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I know, like Nigeria, Egypt, Sudan, India, and it's like there's 217 nations. That's the way we think when we think of nations. But when Jesus gave the definition of, when he said go and make disciples of all nations, he wasn't referring to our definition today of a nation. Today, when you think of a nation, you think of like, oh, they have a military, a currency, clear marked boundaries. They have a dictator or a prime minister or a president of them. That's not what he was saying. Otherwise, he would have used the Greek word agro, which means country. When he says, go make disciples of all nations, he inserts this word ethnos, which literally means people groups. People groups. Now, what's the difference between a nation and a people group? Well, let me tell you the difference, okay? Here's the difference. This is Nigeria. This is Nigeria, okay? We've got two people from Nigeria in the back, and there they are. And this is Nigeria. So when we think of like, oh, reach Nigeria, we think, man, we need missionary teams to go into Nigeria. There's 455 languages in Nigeria. People groups of Nigeria look like this. So think about Nigeria. We need to not ask the question, to where are you going? We need to ask the question, to whom? When you hear someone going on a mission trip, many times we're like, to where? Oh, I'm going to China. I'm going to India. I'm going to Pakistan. But when we really ask, we need to be asking, to whom? Oh, I'm going to the Yoruba, the Hausa, the Igbos. I'm going to the Nuristonis, the Pashtuns, the Uyghurs. I'm going to the Malayali. I'm going to the Wantakia. I don't care to where you're going. That doesn't tell me much. I need to know whom. Oh, how many people groups in the world if there's 217 countries? How many people groups? There was almost 17,000 people groups in the world. 17,000. Now, how many of those would we consider unreached? Unreached means they have less than 2% Christian, and they have to have outside resources. They have to have outside help to reach their own people group. Otherwise, they can't reach them. If you have less than 2% in your people group that is not Christ followers, if you have less than 2% Christians in your people group, you are considered unreached. How many of the 16,669 people groups, how many of them are unreached? Less than 2% Christian, and the answer is almost 7,000. Almost 7,000 has to have outside resources and help. But of those 7,000, what mission strategists realized is they said, man, there's about 700 that have zero. Now, when we say zero, I'm saying this: 0 Christians, 0 missionaries, 0 churches, 0 hope. When you ask the question, what does the world look like and what is the state of missions? You would simply say this: there's 17,000 people groups. There's 7,000 that are unreached. And there's about 700 that are unengaged. As a Christ follower, I need to be reaching those who are reached North America, Latin America, and Europe, but I also need to be reaching those in the unreached areas of the world. But if you had to write down a one-sentence summary of the last 100 years of missions, if you had to write down a one-sentence summary of the last 100 years of missions, here's the best one-sentence summary. We've done a great job sending Christians to help Christians become better Christians. We've done a great job sending Christians to help Christians become better Christians. There's more taxi drivers in Vegas than missionaries in the unreached. There's more taxi drivers in Vegas. Why is that? Well, there's issues there that we can talk about, and we will. Imagine if you were a Navy SEAL and you were in California, and all of a sudden you had a news come in that 5 cruise ships are simultaneously sinking. The first cruise ship is 5 miles off the shore. The second is 10. The next is 15, 20, and 25. Thousands on the ship, and they're all simultaneously sinking. And the commanding officer says to you, go save the people. So you load up in the helicopter, and you go to the first cruise ship. It makes sense. It's closest. And you load people on the helicopter from the cruise ship. You come back to base. Now, energy and manpower going to the second cruise ship. Sorry, third, fourth, and fifth cruise ship. You're just too far out. We don't have the means. So you go back to the first cruise ship, come back to base. You go back to the first cruise ship, come back to base. You go back to the first cruise ship, come back to base. Sorry, second, third, and fourth, and fifth cruise ship. We just don't have the time. Same situation, but let's change the commanding officer's command. The commanding officer says to you as a Navy SEAL, today something has happened that's never happened before. 5 cruise ships were simultaneously sinking. At the end of the day, I want there to be a representative from every cruise ship on this shore telling the media what happened on their boat. Just the one tweak of the commanding officer's command changes our whole strategy. Now we go to the 5th cruise ship first, then the 4th, then the 3rd, and no cruise ship is visited twice before every cruise ship is visited. Go and make disciples of all nations. That's not a general command that sends us general places. That is a specific command that we ask the question, what people groups currently do not have healthy churches, and we give them priority? Because we first and foremost, God wants a representative of every cruise ship. Can I tell you something? When people used to ask me, what's the goal of missions? I used to say something like, saving as many people as possible. God wants as many people saved as possible. And I've since tweaked that to say, first and foremost, a community of believers in every people group. After that, we can reach as many people as possible. But first and foremost, we need to figure out, where are there no community of Christ followers in people groups? That's first priority. Then we can send people wherever we want. What does that mean? It means that we have to go to the farther places. The languages are fruitful land that are going to be a long time. What does it mean? It means we need to help reach. Now, I opened up by saying that God's mission is about peoples, and it is. It's not about nations, 217. It's about peoples, people groups. But God's mission also has obstacles. Obstacles, okay? Listen to these obstacles. Here we go. Anybody ever heard of this? Huh? O'clock in the afternoon at a missions conference. Of course you have. Now, Sunday morning, maybe not, but we are at Hawthorne, so maybe. 1040 window. This is just a marketing term to help us as churches understand we need to reach the unreached. So this is just a marketing term. It's not biblical. You can't turn to 2 Peter and hear the 1040 window. Okay, it's not in there. Peter didn't know it existed. 1040 window is 10 degrees up from the equator, 40 degrees up from the equator, and it stretches from North Africa, the Middle East, to Asia. 65 countries. 65 countries. Every major religion began in this box known as the 1040 window. 88% of those who will be born, who will live, and who will die in the 1040 window, 88% will never shake hands with a Christ follower. 88%. 88%. So when my son and I fly back, we will leave Newark Airport and we'll fly through DFW Airport and we'll land back in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I frequent the DFW Airport quite a bit. If you've ever been there, there's a tram that goes. Visualize it? Can you visualize it? Whatever you're thinking of that. On the tram, and sometimes the tram's crowded, and you got to grab a handle. There's 4 seats on the tram. 4. Now, one time, my tram wasn't crowded. Matter of fact, nobody was on the tram. So what do I think about doing? I'm going to go sit down. I walk over. How many seats? There's 4. There's 4 seats. I go over to sit down. Instead of just sitting down, no. I see a sign. There's a sign on top of the 4 seats. I read the sign. Here's what the sign said. These seats are reserved for those with the greatest needs. And I thought, why'd they put the word greatest in there? It changes everything, doesn't it? Why not just say these seats are reserved for those with needs? I could be like, I have a heel spur. I have needs. But instead, DFW Airport says, no, you need to look around and evaluate and give priority to those with the greatest need. And I literally thought, oh my gosh, what DFW figured out the church is yet to understand. That we need to give those with the greatest need. So that means those with the greatest need get the prayer, manpower, until we flip the script. What are the obstacles? Remember, God's mission is about peoples, but God's mission also has obstacles. Oh man, I've got some obstacles. The tribal world. Oh my gosh, the tribal world. How many languages in Papua New Guinea, Brian? Over 860. I mean, that's unbelievable. 860 languages just in Papua New Guinea. Okay, so just to give you a heads up, I mean, to reach Papua New Guinea, here's what you got to do. You have to, first of all, go 2 to 4 years of training just to learn to live there. You take a month-long course on building a latrine and learning how to handle solar power. Then once you get there, you have to spend 3 years learning the majority language of Pidgin. Then you spend 3 years learning the minority language. Then you start Bible translation. Then you start teaching. Then you start discipling believers, and then you start turning over the church to these believers and appointing elders. That whole thing is about a 13-year process. You're 8.5 years in before you can even share the gospel. It makes the tribal world unbelievably difficult. There's not a long line of people wanting to go to the tribal world. It's so difficult just living there. Also, the languages you have to learn. Friends of ours are in the Wantakia people group. It's one of the most difficult languages in the world to learn, and it's only accessible by helicopter. So I'm like, what happens if your kids get hurt? He's like, well, do it before 5, because at 5 p.m. it gets dark and the helicopter can't land. I'm like, you have to tell them that? I'm like, yeah, don't cross that log at 4:30 and break your arm. You're going to be waiting until morning. There's not a long line of people wanting to go minister, right? I mean, I need a Starbucks close. I need a few Starbucks close, okay? I asked my friends, I'm like, where's the closest Starbucks in Papua New Guinea? And he says, what, Brian? They don't know. Australia. Australia. The tribal world, it's difficult to reach, but maybe God wants to use you to talk to this wonderful couple and say, hey, how can we invest, pray, and support, and be a part of reaching the tribal world? 2 pros right here. What would happen if you're like, God, I might not be able to go there, but man, I can support people, I can pray, I can raise awareness. Maybe God wants to use you to reach the tribal world. Oh, another major obstacle. 2 days ago, I spoke at University of Arkansas. I did a little mini session on Hinduism, and I Googled how many gods in India. Okay, I Googled it. I don't know if you've ever Googled it. I'll tell you what comes up. Can I tell you what comes up? 330 million. Then I Googled how many people currently living in America, and 329 million came up. So I stood at University of Arkansas in front of 300 college students and said this: there's more gods in India than people in America. Okay. Why? Man, it is unbelievably a difficult place. How do you help them to see amongst all the millions of gods, Jesus is the unique one? I mean, you talk to a Hindu and they're like, oh, we love Jesus. He's one of our favorites, right? And I'm like, okay, wait a second. I mean, let me just give you one of the stories, okay? The story of Shiva, Lord Shiva, who is always carries a weapon of war. He marries Parvati. They have a baby named Ganesh. Shiva goes on a far-off journey, comes back, and he thinks a man is breaking into his house, but really it's his son Ganesh who just grown up. And so he takes his sword and severs Ganesh's head. He realizes it's his son that he just severed the head, so he vows whatever walks by next in India, I'm going to put the head on it. Well, it's in India, so it's not a dog, cat, or squirrel like would walk by here. An elephant walks by. So the first head transplant of the known world is done by Shiva as he places the new head on Ganesh. There's about 100 million Hindus who every morning are waking up. They're bathing Ganesh. They're feeding Ganesh. They're singing to Ganesh. They're chanting hymns to Ganesh in the hopes that Ganesh can get them off the wheel of suffering and to return to Brahman. That's their hope. My friend was in India. He's in Delhi, India. He's at the stoplight in Delhi, India, and all of a sudden a parade comes by. He thinks it's a parade, but instead it's a government march. It's a government march to help people under the age of 18 wear helmets. So they had this government march walk by, and he took a picture of one of the signs. He's like, Todd, look at one of the signs to make a law where every Hindu under the age of 18 has to wear a helmet. Care for your head. Not everyone gets a replacement. And it's Ganesh. So it permeates their culture. You might go there on a short-term trip and be like, why is this guy on a motorcycle and about helmets and about heads? Maybe God wants to use you to reach the Hindu community here. Maybe he wants to use you to meet a Hindu friend. Maybe he wants to meet you to connect with a missionary from this church in India that you can pray for. Maybe he wants to use you to raise awareness. Maybe he wants to use you to study a little bit about Hinduism and learn how to have a conversation with Hindus. There's major obstacles. You have the tribal world, you have the Hindu world, you have the Chinese world. I mean, 3 years ago, we flew to China and went to Beijing, took a 2-hour train outside of Beijing, went into an orphanage, and met our new son. He was 5, and we named him Noble. He only spoke Mandarin. There was no English, and he's a handful. I can just tell you that. Okay, he's a handful. And when we were at the orphanage, I asked the lady in the orphanage. I said, "What religion would he have been if he grew up in China?" And she's like, well, in China, you have 3 options. He could be a Confucianist, a Taoist, or a Buddhist. All 3 of those have no word for God. All 3 of those deny the existence of God. I mean, when you think about China, 1255, of us weren't born then, 1255 AD, there was a guy famous more for a swimming game. His name was Marco Polo, okay? He probably never swam. He'd probably be like, I don't know how I invented a game. I never swam, okay? I was an explorer. He's an Italian explorer. He goes over the mountains of Turkey. He goes into China, and he befriends at that time the Kublai Khan. And the Kublai Khan says to him after 2 years, go back to the Pope at Rome and tell him what you've learned about Asia and take this decree that if he sends 100 Catholic priests, me and my entire leadership team will convert to Christianity. It's called history's most open door to the gospel. The decree went out by the Pope. No one volunteered because they thought it was a trap. 20 years later, 2 people went. One died en route, and John Amante took 7 years to get there because he hung out in the Philippines for way too long. 27 years after the decree, John Amante shows up in Asia, and the Kublai Khan had died. I mean, think about that. The vast amount of Chinese that you meet, they're atheists by default because it's like, man, our government never even presented us a God to worship. And maybe God wants to use you to reach the Chinese who are here. Maybe he wants to use you to pray, to give. There's obstacles, trouble world, Hindu world, Chinese world, Muslim world. 570 AD, a man named Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Hashemite, that's his full name. We simply know him as Muhammad. He was born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. Now, at that time, there were about 300 different gods he could worship. Every tribe would bring their god to Mecca, and they'd worship and sell and propagate their god. Well, he took caravans across the Saudi deserts, and on one particular caravan, he met people who called themselves Jews. And he asked the Jews, how many gods do you worship? And they said, we to other people. He's like, what religion are you? They said, we're Christian. He's like, gods do you worship? And the Christians said, we worship one God. And so, God one or is God many? Well, he had time to steal away. He went to a cave on Mount Hira in Saudi Arabia. And in that cave, he says, the angel Gabriel visited him and gave him the holiest phrase in the world. La ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasul Allah. There is one God, Allah, and you, Muhammad, are his prophet. Muhammad went and spent 10 years in Mecca propagating this one God concept, had about 100 followers when he got kicked out, ran for his life, 180 miles north to Medina. In Medina, he grew his faith to 10 people. Went back to Mecca, all the gods under one God, Allah. With the 5 pillars, knowing that in the end, they can never know, as Muhammad didn't even know. I was in a mosque in Los Angeles not too long ago, and the imam took me downstairs to his office, and he showed me this map of the world on the wall. It was color-coded. He said, man, every major mosque around this map is giving financially to it. Saudi Arabia has pledged $1 billion to give. He said, the green represents the areas of the world that are highly Islamic. Pink and red represent the areas of the world that are virtually none are Muslim. He said, we're asking Allah to send young adults from the green to the pink and red. Now, I didn't say this. I didn't. I wanted to. I didn't. I did not say this. I almost did, but I chose not to. I wanted to, but I didn't. I almost did. I was close. I was close, but I didn't. I didn't. I almost did, but I didn't. I almost said, sir, you could get the 80 window. But I didn't, because I didn't want to add fuel to the fire. So if you go to 80.com, that was not my idea. Okay? I did not say that. Muslims are so excited that Christians send Christians to help Christians become better Christians. Muslims are so excited that there's one missionary for every 1 million Muslims. And probably won't change. They're so excited about that. There's obstacles. Are you guys having fun? You glad you came? It's interesting? Okay. We're not even done yet. I'm getting warmed up. I haven't even started sweating. All right? The Buddhist world, the 578 BC, roughly, 562 to be exact. 562 before Christ, okay? So this is like Jeremiah is prophesying in Israel, just to give you a heads up. 562 BC, Siddhartha Gautama is born in Nepal to a Hindu family. He is a devout Hindu, but the older he gets, the more he realizes that Hinduism is a sham. He pushes hard against Hinduism and says there is no God and there is no soul. That's what you do if you want to go against Hinduism. You can't say, I'm a God, because what does Hinduism say then? Come on in, the water's great. So he said there is no God and there is no soul. He sits down under a tree vowing not to get up until he figures out the meaning of life. After about 40 days, he had said that he has a vision of 4 noble truths. Those noble truths are pretty simple. All life is suffering. Noble truth number 1. Noble truth number 2, suffering is caused by desire. You desire your neighbor's wife or family or land, and so you suffer. You go to war. Noble truth number 1, all life is suffering. Noble truth number 2, suffering is caused by your desire. Noble truth number 3, to get rid of suffering, you have to get rid of your desire. Well, how do we do that? Well, noble truth number 4 sets you on that path. He spent 50 years traveling North India, gathering people into groups of nuns and monks, and after 50 years, someone put a bad piece of meat in his beggar's bowl, and he died of food poisoning. 6% of the world is trying to follow truths so that they might be annihilated. Mauritania, 99%, Yemen, 99% Muslim, Moldova, 99% Muslim, Turkey, 96% Muslim, Thailand, 85% Buddhist, Cambodia, 83% Buddhist, Myanmar, 80% Buddhist, Bhutan, 75% Buddhist, India, 75% Hindu, Nepal, 75% Hindu, but we love sending Christians to help. Christ followers, you know, they don't even know what the map looks like. They don't even know there is such a thing as like reached and unreached. Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, where they are, how to engage them. And represents a community of 50,000 Christians. Every blue dot you see represents a community of 50,000 Christians. You don't need the 1040 window to see it. Every green dot you see represents 1,000 Muslims. Every green community of 50,000 Muslims. Every orange dot you see represents 50,000 Buddhists. Every orange dot you see represents 50,000 Buddhists. Every yellow dot you see represents 50,000 Hindus. Every yellow dot you see represents 50,000 Hindus. Friend Jason Mann, who wrote a book called Operation World, every country on the planet in alphabetical order and how you can pray for it. I said, Mandrick, what are the top 5 most neediest countries in the world? He said, India, 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 China. And it makes sense. It makes sense. From Kansas. In Kansas, crops are cash. His name's Andrew. He's like, crops are cash. Like, man, one day on our farm, the farm next door, I realized it was time for them to harvest their crops, but they weren't harvesting them. He was away at college. He's like, I'd come home from college every weekend. I'd be like, why haven't they harvested their crops? I asked my dad. I said, Dad, when's the farm next door going to harvest their crops? It's getting overdue. He's like, I don't know. I haven't talked to him. 3 months later, they never harvest their crops. $50,000 of crops ruined. And my friend Andrew was like, Dad, why didn't they harvest their crops? Did you figure anything out? And he's like, yeah, I did actually. They went on vacation for the season and hired an organization to harvest, a company to harvest the crops. The company was so big, they just forgot about that farm. And then my friend Andrew said this. He said, Todd, a harvest without workers is a tragedy. A harvest without workers is a tragedy. Everything we just talked about for the last, 35 minutes or so, Jesus summarizes in 9 words. He summarizes in 9 words. 9 words. When you leave here and someone says to you, hey, how was that thing on Saturday afternoon? Okay? I want you to say, you know what? Let's go to coffee, and I want to show you in 1 sentence what we learned. Then I want you to go to coffee. I want you to sit down with them, and on a napkin, I want you to write these 9 words. I want you to write down, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And then you're going to ask them 4 questions. That's it. You're going to ask them 4 questions. This is easy. This is doable. You can remember this. You're going to ask them a who, a why, a who, and a why. Can you remember that? Say it with me. Who, why, who, why. That's all I want you to do. Okay? I want you to, right? You can do this. This is doable. This is doable. Okay? I want you to sit down. I want you to take a pen. The harvest is plentiful. The work. At that thing, we learned this at that thing. And it's just 9 words, and I want to ask you 4 questions. So you say to them, give me a name of this person. Jim. Jim? Okay. We'll go to Jim. Jim. The first question is what? Jim, who's the harvest? Now, Jim is going to say something like this. The world? They're like, okay, Jim, okay. Then say it again, exactly the same. Jim, who's the harvest? Now he's like, did I get it wrong? Just say it again. It makes him think. Jim, who's the harvest? He's going to say, well, now I don't know. You tell me. So you're going to say, Jim, who's the harvest? The harvest are the reached and the unreached who are lost. The harvest are the lost in the reached areas of the world. My neighbor's heard the gospel 14 times. He's still lost. He knows the gospel. He's not unreached. He has access to it, but he's a lost, reached person. Just because they're reached doesn't mean they're saved. You with me? We need to be about reaching the reach in our backyard. So I tell Jim, I say, Jim, who's the harvest? The harvest is the lost in the reached and the unreached world. Those who don't have access. They've never heard the gospel. First question, who's the harvest? Harvest is the lost and the reached and the unreached. Second question, why are they plentiful? Why are they plentiful? The unreached grow at 100,000 a day. The unreached grow at about 36 million a year. There were more unreached today than yesterday. 22 years ago, the reason my wife and I jumped in a minivan and did 622 college campuses to raise awareness, I was saying at Oklahoma University in 99, I said this, there's 1.8 billion unreached. Today, I'm saying things like there's 2.5. They're plentiful because of birth rate alone. Muslims have more babies, okay? Think about that. The average has 6 kids. Afghanistan's 99% Muslim. The average family in Mauritania is 99% Muslim. The average family was like 100% Muslim. The average family in the UK has 2 kids. The UK is 60% Christian. The average family in America has 2 kids. America is like 68% Christian. So who's the harvest? The harvest is the lost and the reached and the unreached. Why are they plentiful? Oh, they're great and they're growing. Third question. Who, what? Come on, there's no what. Who's a worker? Now, when you ask Jim this question, Jim's going to say this. I've shared this illustration probably 8 times. I haven't mastered it yet. I've shared it about 8 times, and 100% of the time, this is what they say. 100% of the time, so 8 times. Okay, here's what's happened. I've said, who's a worker? And they've all said this. Christians. And I'm like, well, that's impossible because 2 out of every 7 people breathing are Christians. If Christians are workers, it wouldn't be few, it'd be many. So we have to add something to that definition. Who's a worker? A worker is a Christ follower who's revolving their life around reaching the reached and the unreached. That's a worker. A worker is a Christ follower who's revolving their life around reaching the reached and the unreached. And then what I do is say this. I say, Jim, last question, if you. harvest, lost, and the unreached and reached. Why is it plentiful? Who's a worker? Christ followers who are revolving their life around reaching the reached and the unreached. Why are they few? And I say, Jim, give me 3 reasons. And I write them all down because all 3 are right no matter what he says. Jim, give me 3 reasons why the unreached, give me 3 reasons why the workers are few. Now, shout a couple out. Why are the workers few? Oh, number 1, Jim says, is people are unwilling. I'm like, yes, that's so true. Give me a second one, Jim. Distracted. Oh, we're distracted. My savings, my safety, my resume, my free time. I love me. We're unwilling, and you said we're distracted. Jim, give me a third one. The unreached are hard to reach. They're in war zones, in governments that are anti-Christian. The State Department has issued travel warnings on 23 of the 65 countries in the 1040 window. And then you say, that's the thing we did on Saturday afternoon. Christian, I'd love if you grew with me. So, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. God's mission is about peoples. God's mission has obstacles. But after break, we're going to hear how God's mission involves you. Now, before break, I want to give you a couple of things. Thanks for coming, by the way. I traveled farther. Maybe not from Nigeria. Man, listen to this. This is incredible. One of my favorite things, I think, is the most strategic thing we can do. January 15th on Sunday afternoons at this church, in this room. Starting January 15th, there's going to be 15 weeks where this wonderful woman will fly in and have some of the greatest mission speakers travel to this church to speak. It's going to be about 2.5 hours long. But man, if you can just say, I want to come back and learn more. If you could just pre-plan from January 15th until the last week in May 21st, you just say, man, I'm going to come here from 1:30 to 3:30 and just learn about what God's doing. If you enjoyed this at all, this is way better, okay? So just talk to her, get some more information at the table. Second of all, I have written 2 books that coincide with some of the messages. So if you at all like the message, the first message, all the maps, all the stats, there's a chapter on the Muslim world, the Hindu world. Everything I said over the last 50 minutes or so will be available in this book. It's called The Abrahamic Revolution. And the first 6 chapters are my message tomorrow morning. So you get the notes there too, okay? The second book I wrote is on the obstacles of missions. I call it In This Generation, where I looked at the history of missions and I pulled out obstacles like, I can't go overseas, I'm not called. I can't go overseas because the need's here. I would go overseas, but I married the wrong person, or my kids would freak, or my parents would freak, or I had debt. And I just looked at how over history overcome those obstacles. So that's called In This Generation. And my son came with me. He's going to be selling them in the back because I told him, I said, man, is going to get a cut of the back.
All right, just an FYI, while you're doing this break, just an FYI, have your raffle tickets handy because we will be doing our first raffle drawing before we start up the second half. So have those tickets handy. All right. I'm going to go ahead and call the first raffle. So if you have the winning ticket but cannot hear me, so sorry. So we're going to go ahead and do our first raffle. So get those tickets out. All right. The first raffle ticket winner is 73324. Yeah, it gets real quiet when you think you're going to win something. All right. The number again is 73324. Last call for 73324. Oh, you got it, sir? All right. Congrats. Yeah. All right, big winner. Well, you can treat him to Starbucks then, since he doesn't get to do it when he goes. But you can do that or Dunkin' if you have a choice. Okay, thank you. All right. So we are going to get started with the second half in just a minute. John. Do you want to do the second raffle? I could not. You were just like nodding. Because I was asking him. All right, good news for you guys. We have one more raffle we're going to do, so keep those tickets handy. One more raffle. Let's see. Okay. All right. Wait, what was this last one? Oh, okay. I didn't want it to be like the next ticket down. That would have been weird. Okay, this one. Still very similar, though. 7. My God, I thought someone's called winner right there. All right, 73332. So if you have a 7, a bunch of 3s, and then a 2, then you are our winner. All right, nice. We got our second winner. Wow, you were on it. I had to say it like once. You were really paying attention to that ticket. Nice, congrats. Mm-hmm. Okay. The good news is we will also have a raffle at the end. So if you are still feeling lucky or would like to try one more time, you will have the opportunity to do so after we are done with our speaker's second half. And don't forget, books are available back there. You want to help those needy children, so you can also grab those whenever you so desire. But for now, I'm just going to turn the mic back over to you.
I want to say thank you to both of you who bought my book. I appreciate that. My son is crushing it. His college is almost paid for if he goes to somewhere local. Some things in life are optional, some things are not. Some things in life are optional, some things are not. So like driving is optional, but driving on the correct side of the road is not. Wearing shoes is optional, but eating is not. Getting married is optional, but loving your spouse is not once you're married. And then becoming a Christ follower is optional. However, once you are a Christ follower, being a global Christian is not. We serve a global God, and so we should all be global Christians. You should be able to walk up to any Christ follower and ask those questions I asked you at the beginning, and they should be able to just, oh, yes, I know, I'm aware, because they want to be good senders, even if they're never goers. To be good senders and to be strategic givers, we've got to know about the world. And so for this last session, I said God's mission is about peoples. God's mission is about peoples. It's not about nations. It's about peoples and people groups. God's mission has obstacles. Oh my gosh, the tribal world, the Hindu world, the Muslim world, the Chinese world, the Buddhist world. But then finally, God's mission involves you. It involves you. It involves you. Okay, so what do I mean by a global Christian? A global Christian is a Christ follower who's discovered the truth and needs of God's unfulfilled global purpose. They've had that aha moment. Now, maybe the aha moment happened when you took perspectives, if you've taken it. Maybe the aha moment for you, the reason you came to a 4 o'clock afternoon missions time was because you're like, man, I went on a short-term trip in college and it wrecked me and I'm never the same and I know God's global heart. Maybe it's because you met with a missionary or you heard great missions teaching from this church or you supported a missionary. But a global Christian is someone who understands the truth and needs of God's unfulfilled global purpose. Now, there's habits of a global Christian. When you ask yourself, well, what do I do as a global Christian? The answer is, man, I take my short-term trips strategically. If I'm a short-term missionary, if God wants me to long-term, that's incredible. I welcome the nations here, the immigrants, the internationals, the refugees. I pray for the world. I give sacrificially as a sender, and I mobilize. I raise awareness in my Bible studies, small groups, in my family, with my kids, my grandkids. I'm a mobilizer. So when you think about a global Christian, these are the 5 areas that we want to major in, okay? And maybe you look up at some of these and you're like, wow, I'm terrible at 3 of those, or I'm good at 4 of those, or I don't even know what 2 of those are. Let's just spend the remaining of our time walking through these 5, and we'll start with the goer. We'll start with the goer. When God has a conversation with Moses about going back to Egypt, it's an interesting conversation. 9 times he refers to himself. 9 times. I mean, he says, I have seen the misery. I have seen the people. I am concerned. I have heard. I have come down. I have seen. I am sending. I mean, it's 9 times. And actually, there's only 1 time God mentions Moses. Nine to 1. But in the next verse, Moses is like, wait, what? Who am I? And we do that too. I guarantee you, tomorrow morning, after my message, I guarantee you people are going to leave here going, oh my gosh, I can go to the unreached. Then they're going to go to Chipotle, and they're going to be like, no, I can't. I'm high maintenance, and I'm needy, you know. Like, they're going to leave here fired up. They're going to get 2 miles down the road. They're going to be like, no. And they're going to turn inward. That's what we do, right? We look at our abilities. God says it's not about your ability. It's about your availability, okay? Look at what he does in the next verse. He says, Moses, I am with you. The promise of his presence is what drives us. It's what gets us out of our comfort zone. It's why risk is right. It's why risk is right. God's going to ask some of you to risk. And it's like, man, risk is right. I will be with you. He says the same thing in Matthew 28 with the Great Commission. I will be with you always, the promise of his presence. Now, I spend 90% of my day crisscrossing America speaking at universities, okay? So I was at Montana State last week. I was at Oklahoma State. I'm heading to Oklahoma University next, Texas Tech, University of Tech. I travel. So most of the time I'm dealing with people between 18 and 25. Or 30, depending upon if they're still in college. And what I've realized is across the board, though, when it comes to going, no matter what age or stage, across the board, there are obstacles that come up. And I could probably list to you about 15 obstacles, but these are the ones I hear over and over and over again. Over and over again. So what I want to do is 2 things. I want to say, if you're someone in here who's dealing with this obstacle, I'm going to give you like a little bit of a 3-minute on how I would answer this. But more importantly, you're going to have people come to you with these obstacles. They're going to come to you because you went to that missions thing, okay? So, hey, Carol, you went to the missions thing. I would be a missionary, but I have debt. What would you say if you had 3 minutes? Hey, you went to that missions thing on Saturday, right? Yeah, I did. Well, I would be a missionary, but I'm not called. What do you say? Yeah, you went to that missions thing, right? I did. Well, I would be a missionary, but my parents said no. Or, hey, you went to that missions thing, right? Yeah. Well, I want to go to China, but my spouse wants to go to counseling. What would you say? So, not only hear this as someone who might be dealing with these things, but even more so if someone comes to you with this question, what's a little nugget that you don't just validate it? Oh, yeah, then don't. But you push back a little bit. Push back. Okay, family. What do you do when God says go, but family says no? The number one reason the world has yet to be reached is Christian parents. Christian parents. That is the number one reason. I mean, how many Christian parents? I stood up at University of Texas, and I said to this, I said to the students, I said, don't settle for your parents' best. Your parents want the best. That's what I told them. They want you to graduate, get a great job that they can brag on your friends. They want you to vacation in Destin, Florida, wear khakis, white t-shirt on the beach, take some pictures. They want the best. I said, don't settle for your parents' best. That's too small. We need to settle for God's best. We want God's best. And so, I mean, it's not odd. It's not odd. I came to set a man against his father and a daughter against his mother. A man's enemies will be the member of his own house. He who loves mother and father more than me is not worthy of me. And I said to these students, I said, man, the number one obstacle to you obeying God, share your last name. Like the vast majority of the obstacles are people who share our last name. Some of you experience this firsthand. Some of you are still experiencing this because the older you get, the harder it gets because your parents now, they're ailing. They're like, wait, you can't go now. You can't do that now. You can't move here now because I have needs. So what do you do when God says go and family says no? What about marriage? What about marriage? I tell students all the time, I'm like, don't marry a Christian. Oh, I say that 30 times a week. Don't marry a Christian. That's too small. Everybody claims to be a Christian. You need to marry a global Christian, okay? You need to marry a global Christian. So a friend of mine came up to me, he's like, hey, okay, I have 3 requirements for a girl I'm going to date. I'm like, what are they? Well, that she's holy, okay, that she's hot, okay, and that she can live in a hut. And I'm like, okay, go with that. Holy, hot, and hut. We'll see how far that gets you. Here's an email we got. I just want to let you know I came across your website. At 18, I spent a summer in student missions and knew at the end of that summer that God wanted me in missions work, but then I met a guy and sold God out. I'm now 41 and have regretted that decision. Please keep telling young people if the day to minister for Christ is today, not tomorrow, next semester, next year. Tell them to never, ever, ever let any person or anything deter you from the mission that God has placed in your heart. I'm speaking from experience. Wow, I have seen so many Christ-following, global Christian, mission-minded, on-fire believers ready to reach the world and just date a lukewarm person. And it's over. Debt. You know, today the average college student is $29,000 in debt. And then we say, hey, here's what we say. We say, hey, to go overseas, you have to have a college degree because you have to have a platform to get in. So you need to be education, nursing, teaching, or whatever. Oh, to get a college degree, you have to go into debt. So, oh, you have debt, you can't go in the mission field. We've made it pretty difficult. But a few things. First of all, I always tell young adults, I say, don't look at the $30,000. I say, instead, look at the monthly payment. That's $300 a month. I say, don't let $300 a month keep you from the mission that God has placed in your heart. Mission agencies will let you raise that. Mission agencies will let you raise that. Now, let me just blow your mind. Can I blow your mind with something? Can I blow your mind? Like, I'm going to blow your mind, all right? Like this, you're going to be like, what? You're going to be like, what? Okay. So my friend Luke calls me up. He's like, Todd, do you realize the greatest bottleneck to people going into missions is school debt? And I'm like, okay. He's like, they can't get over it. He's like, so here's what I'm going to do, Todd. I'm going to raise the debt of missionaries. I'm going to raise it personally. Any missionary who goes 2 years or more to the unreached, I'm going to personally pay their college debt off. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. Any university, any graduate who goes 2 years or more to the unreached, that's my 2 requirements. I will pay their college debt off. His name's Luke Womack. I talked to him on the phone yesterday. I said, Luke, how many missionaries are you currently supporting? He says 103. I said, how much debt have you incurred? He said, I've taken on $4 million. I said, this is unbelievable. He just travels around, raises money, and for $14 a month, you can get a missionary on the field. His website, you ready for this? Might want to write this one down. It's pretty unbelievable. TheGoFund.com. TheGoFund.com. And right there, you can go to it and you can see, oh my gosh, there's Luke. There's David Platt giving an endorsement. The next one down is the 103 missionaries supported, $4 million in debt, and growing. He adds like 25 a month. He's taking this one deal and saying, man, let's tackle this. So if you have a young adult who's like, I want to go to the mission field, but I have debt, you can be like, go see the GoFund.com. Apply. They'll pay your debt. Pretty cool? I mean, if that didn't, what'd you learn at that thing on Saturday? It blew my mind, okay? Like, it blew my mind. Cornhole did? No, it was incredible, okay? Like, I'm softening you up for some good stuff, okay? I got some good stuff. There's nothing more confusing than the missionary call. Oh, my gosh. Like, I like to tell people, what would a call look like if it came? Like, honestly, Gabriel coming to the edge of my bed saying, go to Africa, sucker? Because, like, when you literally talk this through with someone, when you ask them, like, what does a call look like? They go, well, I guess I have a burden, and then I learn more information, and then I get a glimpse with my eyes, and then I have people validating I should do it, and then I have, like, more urgency, and then I begin to learn about it, and I'm like, yeah, sounds like you're called. You're doing all that. I am? You're doing all that. When you actually ask, what would it look like? There's 3 types of callings in Acts, okay? There's 3 types of callings in Acts. The first type of calling is the mysterious call. This is where Paul the Apostle, he's in Turkey. He's trying to figure out, do I go north or into Asia or what? And during the night, Paul has a vision of a man from Europe saying, come over and help us. So Paul crosses the Aegean Sea and goes into Europe. Now, if you had 100 missionaries lined up right here, if I said to all 100, what percentage of you have had a mysterious, you can't explain it call? 4 would step forward. 4. Leaving how many left? 96, thank you. So, the other 96 fall under the other 2 callings. What are those? Well, the second calling is the commission call. This is at the church of Antioch. There were prophets and teachers, and the Holy Spirit said to the leadership, pray over these 2 and send them out. What that means is if the leadership of this church comes to you and says, hey, I just want to let you know we're launching a Team of 10 to Indonesia, and the leadership think you'd be perfect to help that, you should say, what? What? That's just as incredible as the mysterious call, where you get commissioned out. Now, if you have 100 missionaries lined up here, and I said, step forward if you've experienced the mysterious call, how many are going to step forward? Well, in the same way, vast amount of churches are not proactively engaging in recruiting to missions. They're reactionary. Someone's like, I got a heart for the world in college. I came to my local church. What do I do? And they're like, oh, shoot, Google it, right? Like, we don't know. So unfortunately, 4 out of 100 have experienced this second type of calling. So if you have 100 missionaries, 4 have experienced the first, 4 have experienced the second. That leaves me how many? 92% of all missionaries fall underneath the third category. I looked at a map of the world, I looked at no one was going, and I volunteered. It just seemed good. It was the right decision. It was the right decision. So, finally, support raising. Support raising it's not unbiblical. It can just feel un-American. But God might have you go into a nonprofit where you raise money for them. Mary, from whom 7 demons had come out, Joanna, the wife of Chuza, the manager of Herod's household, Susanna, these women were giving to support Christ and his disciples. Paul the Apostle picked up on this and said, in the same way, the Lord has commanded those who preach the gospel receive their living from the gospel. So, we need goers. Short-term missions will never reach the world, okay? They won't reach the world. We need long-term goers, okay? Now, The heart can't feel what the eye hadn't seen. So going overseas short term will help you become a better global Christian, no doubt. But we need those going long term. What about the welcomers? What about the welcomers? I mean, oh my goodness, the nations are here, right? I live in Arkansas. We've got like 2 Filipinos. That's it. Like I think I saw an Indian once in '86. And he was just driving through. He's like, I'm not staying here. I mean, you guys, look at the culture. Look at where you're at. I mean, the world is here. The world is here. What an opportunity to welcome the immigrants, the international students, the refugees. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Just from a student standpoint alone, look at this, 1.2 million from 188 countries. 1.2 million from 188 countries. What a fantastic verse, Acts 17. From one man he made every nation that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he determined the time set for them and the exact places they should live. God did this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out to him and find him. He's not far from each of us. 1999, a boy was born in Tunis, Tunisia. 1999, he loves 3 things. He loves soccer, he loves breaking fast during Ramadan with his dad, and he loves soccer. Those are his 3 loves. And through a series of incredible events, he was able to study at a school in London. And he will never hear the gospel. But he studies in London, and he gets a degree. And his first job he gets is in this city. It's a 3-year commitment to this job. And you're literally in line behind him at Starbucks. How did that moment happen? What had to happen, 99, Fez, Morocco, to London, to 2:30 on a Tuesday in this city, Starbucks, 4 deep in line, and I'm 5th, and he's 4th. What cataclysmic, crazy, providential, incredible things had to line up for this moment in Starbucks? He did this. He determined the exact times and places that they should know him and fear him. Yet every Christ follower you know who's in that situation, guess what they do the entire time in line? And he just leaves Starbucks, probably never hearing the gospel. Think about that. Of the top 10 nations who send their students to study here, take out those that are not in the 1040 window. Take out the ones not in the 1040 window. And it's almost like God's like, church, I'm bringing them to your door. Will you at least say hello? You're not going to believe this, but I know Christians who don't have international friends. I do. I know them. You're like, no, I do. I know them. No. Yes. They don't have international friends. It's like, how is that even possible? A friend of mine, Spencer, he's like, Todd, man, I felt so convicted. He goes to K-State in Manhattan, Kansas. He's like, man, I knew I needed an international friend. He's like, I'm in the student union at K-State University. It's May 1st, and I'm like, I'm meeting a friend. He sees a Chinese student studying at a table. He's like, I got to go talk to him. Spencer, I'm proud of him. He walks up. He goes up to the Chinese student, introduces himself, and he has a 40-minute conversation with this guy. 40 minutes. After the conversation, Spencer's like, this is unbelievable. You're my only friend. I love this. Can you be friends with me? And the Chinese student's like, yes, here's my number. And the Chinese student says, but I graduate May 8th. Like, I'm leaving. I've been here 4 years, and I'm going back to China. Spencer's like, oh, my gosh. He's like, well, I get you for 5 days. He's like, if you need anything for 5 days, you let me know. He didn't think he was ever going to hear from this guy again. Friday night, he gets a text. Spencer, can I get a ride to the airport? Spencer's like, of course. He sends a text back. I got lots of luggage. Spencer's like, SUV. He sends a text back, no, I got lots and lots of luggage. Spencer's like, I got you. So Saturday, 3 o'clock, Spencer rolls around the dorms. He's like, he brought out the largest hockey bag I'd ever seen. He's like, we pushed. I got it in the car. We high-fived, and he said, I have one more. He's like, just bring it down. The airport from the campus to the airport in Manhattan, Kansas is only 2 miles. They strap it to the top. They drive 2 miles. On the way to the airport, Spencer's like, what is in the suitcases? And the Chinese student says, oh, it's my souvenirs. And Spencer's like, man, you must have a ton of friends in China that you're bringing back souvenirs for. And the Chinese student said, no, it's my souvenirs I brought here to give to my American friends. I made none. I made none. That is a tragedy. That is a tragedy. We got to reach out to the nations. We got to pray for the world. We got to pray for the world. Of all the things the disciples asked him to teach them, Lord, teach us to pray. I mean, that should be telling, right? Lord, teach us to pray. Of all the things, teach us to pray. Remember Luke 10:2, the 9 words of Jesus? Can anybody quote Luke 10:2? The harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. That's the 9 words, and the response we should do, Jesus says, the harvest is plentiful, the workers are few, so host a conference. Host a conference. The harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. Raise money. The harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. Preach about the harvest. The harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. Ask. There's a vast amount of harvest to be harvested, and there's a vast amount of bored believers. Ask the Lord to awaken the bored believers. So, I'm going to ask you to do this right now, okay? Pull out your phone. Do you have a phone? Do you have a phone? Pull out your phone. We all have phones, okay? I'm going to do this. It's going to be for our own good, okay? It's going to be for our own good. Pull out your phone. Go into your alarms. Go into your alarms. You guys are already on Instagram. Go into your alarms. How do you set it? You scroll down, set the alarm. Set a silent alarm for 10:02. 10:02. Now, on mine, I can label it. I labeled my 10:02 silent alarm harvest. Make sure you put silent, otherwise, in the middle of my talk tomorrow, your phone's going to go off. And I'm going to look out at you and be like, you didn't do silent. And no one's going to know what I'm talking about but you, okay? Tomorrow morning, now here's why I want you to do this. Do you know how often, set it to daily. Daily. Silent alarm, daily. Now, do you know how often this is going to go off? It's going to go off at 10:02 every day. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to be doing the randomest thing. And all of a sudden, your silent alarm is going to go off. Silent alarm is going to go off. Your silent alarm is going to go off at 10:02, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh. And just spend 30 seconds praying for the harvest and the unreached. So tomorrow at 10:02, if you're leaving church, in the middle of church or whatever, when that silent alarm goes off, just say, Lord, I pray there's people in this audience who would catch a heart for the world. Monday, when you're at work at 10:02, you're going to be like, who's calling me? Oh, he got me. That speaker got me. Lord, I pray that my heart would be ignited and that my kids would be global Christians. Tuesday, it goes off again, because you know how often it's going to go off? Every day. So Tuesday, it goes off again. You're having coffee with a friend. Hey, can we just pray real quick? Lord, I just pray that you'd send out workers let me be a part of that. Just every day, 30-second prayer. I gravitate to self-absorption, and I need this as a reminder. There you go. Okay. I guarantee you, tomorrow at 10:02. What time service starts? Is there a 10 o'clock? Where am I at tomorrow at 10:02? I'm going to be in the service. What time does the service start? 9:55. Okay, perfect. Worship's going to shield me, okay? We'll be singing You're a Good, Good Father when the alarms go off. Now, there's a free app. What I do at 10:02 is my alarm goes off, and I go into this free app. It's called Unreached of the Day. You already got out your phones. You can download it right now. Every people group that's unreached and how you can pray for it every day. So, October 15th this morning, the Yakat of Russia come up, and it tells me there's 483,000. There's 0.1%. And then I can scroll down, and it gives me pictures, prayer requests, workers in that region. It's incredible. So at Bible studies, I say, hey, before we leave, someone pull out the Unreached of the Day. Who are we praying for? Oh, the Uyghurs. Okay, let's pray. What an incredible resource in our pocket. Between 10:02 a.m. or p.m. if you're a night person, and the Unreached of the Day. The person who mobilizes the church to pray will make the largest contribution in history to world evangelization. We need people who will go, who will welcome, who will pray, and who will send, who will give sacrificially. You are not a second-class Christian if you stay behind, you're a nurse in Newark, and you want to give sacrificially. The issue is, just as the goer is sacrificial, I mean, oh my gosh, think of what these two sacrificed for 26 years in New Guinea. And should me as a sender be less sacrificial? Do I get off the hook? Right? What I realized is generosity doesn't start with a comma in my bank account. More money will never make a selfish person generous. So what you're doing now with your giving is what you're going to do when you have a lot. It's going to be the same. There was a rule in the Israelite army that David instituted. The share of the man who stays with his supplies will be the same of him who went down to battle. What does that mean? It means when the unreached is reached, both the goer and the sender celebrate and are rewarded. Paul the Apostle writes a letter to Rome. He's like, Rome, I need a new sending base. Antioch has been covering my finances, but I'm going to Spain, and that's like forever away. So I need Rome to be my new sending base. And then he asks Rome 4 rhetorical questions. All 4 questions end with the same answer. They can't. They can't. So Paul says, man, if I'm in Spain reaching the unreached, and this guy in Spain prays to receive Christ, first rhetorical question, how can they call on whom they have not believed? The answer is they can't. Before they can cry out to Jesus, they have to first believe in Jesus. Then he says, second rhetorical question, how can they believe in him unless they've heard? You can't. Before you believe something, you have to hear about it. You don't even know it exists. You have to first hear about Jesus, and then you can believe. And how are you to hear without someone preaching? Well, you can't. You can't hear something if I don't speak it. So I first have to speak it, then you can hear it, then you can believe it, then you can call. Well, I can't even speak it to them unless the sender sends me. You have to pull out your pocketbook before the story even starts. The sender starts the story. The sender starts the story. When the unreached are reached, and Paul backtracks where this all began, he comes all the way back to the sender. You are so significant if you are a Christ-following, generous sender. But the problem is, there's not a lot of Christ-following, generous senders, right? Can I tell you guys 2 stories? Can I give you 2 stories of senders? You guys want 2? Do you mind? We got time? Yeah. You guys enjoying this? Yeah. Thank you for coming to this thing. You came to this thing on a Saturday afternoon. Let me tell you 2 stories, okay? Let me tell you 2 stories. Ryan Fee. Love Ryan Fee. He lives in Seattle, okay? And he's at a coffee shop. He goes to this coffee shop all the time, same coffee shop by his house. He goes to this coffee shop, and he notices, he's like, man, there's a lot of Africans at this coffee shop. Like, he notices this. Like, he hears their accents. He's like, there's a lot of Africans. This is Seattle. Well, after about 6 months, he goes up to one of these Africans, and he's like, hey, where are you from? And the guy tells him, oh, yeah, I'm from Africa. He's like, oh, okay. And he asks him this question. And this question would change Ryan Fee's life. He says, what do you miss most about your country? And the guy looks at Ryan and says, camel milk. And Ryan says, you can milk camels? Yes, it's very delicious. So Ryan researches camel milk, buys 8 glass bottles from Australia, and has it shipped in and gives it to this man for Christmas. He said, Todd, he cried. The guy then begged him, can you get me more? Because my cousin owns a shop and he could start selling it. Ryan Fee realized, oh my gosh, this is a huge way to get the gospel to these people. Like if they learn and they love and they trust you, you can get into their culture. And so he's like, Todd, I bought a camel. I'm like, you bought a camel? He's like, I bought a camel. And then he bought 100 more. And he's one of the largest producers of camel milk in America. His organization's called Camel Culture. And I tell you what, he texted me the other day. These are the texts I get from Fee. Can I tell you the texts I get from Fee? Hey man, hope you're doing well. Going out on a limb here. Do you know of any wealthy kingdom-minded dairy farmers who want to use their land for the spread of the gospel among the unreached and have camels? Oh man, I'll have to ask around. He just thought, man, I want to be a good sender. Like, I want to be a good sender. And I want to use my time, treasure, and talent, and I want to send. And so he uses all the proceeds. Not only is he welcoming the nations, but everything he makes, he's giving on behalf to the unreached. Can I tell you one more story? Is that a good story? If that doesn't burn your woods, I don't know, something's wet. Huh? Can I top it? What is your name? Darlene with a D? Okay. Darlene. I've just heard it differently, okay? Darlene, I'm in Austin, Texas, okay? I'm in Austin, Texas, Darlene, and I'm speaking at this church called Austin Ridge. And it's not a small church. It's 5,000 people, and it's a pretty darn wealthy church. I mean, it overlooks the city of Austin on a hill. They just built a parking garage that costs multi-millions. It's got escalators. Like, we're talking a big deal. And they bring me back a year later, okay? So I speak, and they bring me back a year later, and I speak again. And I'm in the foyer, you know, just hanging out by the fireplace in Austin at Austin Ridge Church, and this random guy comes up to me. Darlene, I think he's like in his 30s. He looks a little disheveled. He's got a hat on, hair coming out, pearl snaps, boots, whatever you're picturing is it. And like literally, he comes up to me. He's like, Todd, can I take you to lunch? Well, I don't fly out till 5, and the staff are busy. So, Darlene, I say, okay. So we go to lunch. At lunch, he says, Todd, a year ago, my wife and I, we were going to buy a house in Costa Rica. We make a lot of money that we spend half the year there and then half our year here. He's like, but you spoke a year ago and wrecked me. You said God wants us to use our blessings not for us, but to bless the nations. And that one line changed our life. He said, I'm an auctioneer, and my wife's an event planner for Neiman Marcus. And what we want to do is, I want to raise $500,000 at an event I'm going to have December 11th. I want you to give a message on the 1040 window and the unreached. And then after we raise the $500,000, I want you to pick 5 organizations in the unreached to give $100,000 each to. I almost choked on my quinoa. Now, Darlene, how well do I know this guy? None. I thought he was homeless. Darlene, I don't know this guy from Adam, right? So he's giving me a ride back to the church. So I'm getting in his extra large Dodge cowboy looking truck, and what do, Darlene? What do I Google? Him. Right? So I'm secretly Googling, like I'm getting in the truck. I mean, you can't I'm secretly Googling. Okay, so literally, like I'm on my phone, I'm getting in his truck. He's like, you want to ride back? I'm like, yeah, man, hang on. I think my wife's calling. So I go, Heath Hale, cowboy auctioneer, Austin. And then what do? I hit image, right? Why? Yeah, I hit image. And I'm like, you know Matthew McConaughey? He goes, yeah, I had cigars with him 2 weeks ago. I do both his auctions every year. He's a good friend. I'm like, oh my gosh. So Heath Hale and his wife Tabitha started 4 years ago the Bless Foundation. We have one event every year, December 11th in Austin, Texas. We have about 600 people come. And in 32 minutes, Heath Hale will raise $1.5 million every year. So we have raised about $4 million, providing in all these groups, 45 different projects funded, 323 languages. And just from one guy saying, Lord, use my time, talent, and treasure. How can I send sacrificially? Okay? Now, maybe you're in here and you're like, Todd, I'm not an auctioneer and I don't know Matthew McConaughey. Maybe that's you. I don't know. I don't want to project that. Okay? I'm not saying that, but maybe you're in here and you're like, that's not me. But we've all got different time, treasure, and talent that we can leverage for the kingdom. The problem is that the sender gets real selfish. You with me? So, we need goers and welcomers and prayers and senders, but guess what? Missionaries are not born. They're made. Missionaries are made. Where do missionaries come from? You ever thought about that? Behind every missionary is a mobilizer. Someone who's gone to them, helped awaken them to the needs of the world, and then pointed them to the unreached. Behind every missionary is a mobilizer. A mobilizer has a passion for the world and a passion to pass it on. A mobilizer has a passion for the world and a passion to pass it on. Habakkuk says this, write this vision down, make it plain, record it, because others are going to hear it and run. I love this. What God's doing in your life among the unreached and all that he stirs today and tomorrow, man, go share it with someone. Make it plain that they might hear it and respond. What would it look like if on your fridge you have magnets of families who you were a fraction of their story on why they went to Indonesia, India, Afghanistan, Pakistan? Oh, the Smiths, yeah. They were in our community group. We would, at 10:02, we'd pray every day for the world. Wherever we were at, we'd all pray individually. We'd pray for the world. We brought in different ways to reach the world in our community group. I brought in missionaries to tell their story. Now they're working in Mongolia. I mean, how cool would it be if literally you could touch all 65 countries in the 1040 window by the time you're 75? You're like, man, we prayed about this country. We gave to this country. We support missionaries in this country. We raised up mobilizers in this country. Every Christian should be a global Christian. Every Christian should be a global Christian. But because we have new believers coming into the church, every global Christian needs to be a mobilizer. Do you have the skills needed to take someone from zero to zealot in their missions understanding? Like, do you have the skills? Are you well read enough? Do you understand the world enough? Do you need to go somewhere to do that? Do you need to go on a short-term trip to gain exposure? Do you need to read a couple of books? Do you need to talk to the missions committee here? Hey, do you need to take perspectives? I just want to grow in this. I want to be able to mobilize. I became a Christ follower at 16. That was my conversion. But it wasn't until I was about 20 before I feel like I had my missions conversion. It wasn't until 20 that I realized, at 16 I knew Jesus died for my sins, but I didn't know my purpose until 20. And I think as I try to say that, and I have people in my life who at random days, they'll email me or text me and say, today's my missions vision birthday. Just want to say thanks for coming to my campus. Oh, today, yeah, Todd, February 16th, this is the day you mobilized us. We haven't ever thought, we stopped thinking about it. And I've thought about that, how to put that in words. And literally, I came across a quote in 1886. T. Pearson says this: Christians need to be converted to missions just as the lost need to be converted to Christ. Like my spiritual birthday when I came to Christ is 16, but my other day is when I learned why. You know, Mark Twain says the two greatest days in your life, the day you were born and the day you realize why. And man, at 20, when I heard this message of God's heart for the world, I realized, wow, so this is why I'm here. And I hope that happens to you and has happened, and I hope that you mobilize and pray and give and welcome and go. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much. How about one more time? You did an awesome job. All right, so as much as I know you enjoyed that, I know you've all just been sitting patiently waiting for the rest of the raffles. That was really what you were focused on, I'm sure. So we are going to go ahead and do a few more of those. So now is the time. Go ahead and get those tickets out if you still have them. Now, here's the real fun part. These ones have a little bit of a bonus that go with them that you will see if and when you are one of the lucky winners. So our first one is, same first four numbers we've been doing all night, 73316. So if you have 73316, now's the time to go, yay. All right, last call, 7333. Oh, we got him? I was looking for the little yay. Congratulations. All right. So, not only do you get a gift certificate like our previous winners, but you also get a nifty t-shirt. So I'll take the ticket and you can take that. Yes. Ooh. All right. Congrats. You're welcome. Very nice. All right, we have two more winners, so don't lose hope yet. For dramatic effect, I'll take a little longer with the ticket. All right, let's see what we got. If your ticket is 7, a bunch of 3s, and then 7 at the end, then you're our winner. So if you are 7, I actually have to count this, 33337, you are our winner. Oh, all right. Very nice. Congrats. Please enjoy the t-shirt and Uber Eats. Thank you. All right, you're very welcome. Yes, of course. Very nice. All right. We do have one more that we are going to call. I know, so sad, it's almost over. But fret not. If you are not a winner of one of these awesome prizes, there is still something that you can take home with you, and that is the ice cream that we will have for everybody on the way out. Yes, so you can go home with something wonderful either way. All right? And again, don't forget, we have the books available from our speaker tonight, and you may also come and see him tomorrow in the service. So there's lots of good stuff, even if you are not this particular winner. But hopefully it is you, because it does have to be somebody, unless they're not paying attention to their ticket. So let's see. There we go. All right, we have very much a recurring theme with our numbers tonight. 7333, 73. Again, I'm just randomly picking, so I have no idea who our winner is. So 733373. So if you have the 7, the 3s, and it ends in 73, you're the winner. Last call, too bad. Okay, we're going to try again. Another ticket. So everybody who just went, oh, you still have another shot. Don't worry. This could be the redemption piece. All right. Ooh, some new numbers. 733424. 733424. My favorite is like when someone will randomly be like, now is the time when my head is itchy. All right, one more time. 733424. Saw that, man. Your head is not itchy. All right. I'm going to do one more. If they don't, I'm going to take it home. I'll be honest. All right, let's see what we got. 733433. It's like you guys don't want the t-shirt. Oh my gosh. 733433. I mean, they could call a false ticket and I would take it at this point. 733360. 360. Oh my gosh, guys. What? Hey! Woohoo! I'd almost given up hope. There you go. Enjoy. You have more than earned that. Enjoy. All right, so that is officially the close of this evening's events. We thank you so much for coming. We hope you enjoyed it and gained a lot from it. Please enjoy the ice cream and everything else on the way out. Have a great night.